stories, tell the truth. Patience is a virtue, all is fair in war.
All right, so this is part 2 of my life as an engineer. The episode for my life as an engineer. I just recorded the other one like a couple days ago, and I just got off my PlayStation. Was kind of feeling in the mood to record again. So welcome back, man. This is Streams. This is episode 8, but part 2 to the episode 7. If you did not watch that, you can either stay here and finish this one, or you can go and watch that one. I really don't. It's up to you, my guy. But please hit the like, hit the subscribe. I need you to do that every time so that we can keep this consistency and we can keep this growth. My shorts have been doing pretty well with the views, as far as, at least as opposed to the full size videos. The shorts have been getting like 100 views and up. A lot of them, not all of them, but yeah, we're gonna keep this consistency going though. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. We in here, bruh. But yeah. So it was a lot of things on that last episode that I didn't really get a chance to finish talking about, because the stories that I ended up telling for that episode were kind of long-winded, and I didn't expect it to take that long to get through those parts. But nonetheless, bro, we here. I like to have a video going in the background. I don't really know what the video is. Whatever. I really don't care, as long as we got something going. And we got the Pro Tools on this screen right here, even though the brightness is too high for you to even understand what you're seeing anyway. But yeah, man. So my life as an engineer, man. I talked a little bit last time about niggas wanting discounts, dangers, and being safe in here, as far as me having my back turned during an entire session to a bunch of strangers in the room, hearing about a couple engineers being killed over the last few years, and lots of other things that I've heard engineers go through. Not necessarily things that I've gone through personally, but a lot of the stories that I've heard, it's not that far-fetched for me to see how I could end up in those situations. You know, like I said, I have people pull guns on engineers that I know, engineers getting beat up in studios, engineers getting threatened, engineers getting embarrassed, and, you know, all of that. I'm never going for none of that, I promise. Never going for it. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that engineer. You know, the dynamic in this studio is way different. You know, you're not going to bully me through the session. I'm not that guy. But lots of other things I didn't really delve into, as far as what it's like working in this line of, you know, doing this line of work. And let's get to it. So one of the struggles that I go through as an engineer in particular, for me personally, I mean, is, you know, you get to a place, if you care at all about the craft, about your craft, you get to this place where you're like, you start realizing where you might rank as opposed to other engineers. And I've had engineers around me that were pretty well experienced at a time when I wasn't it at all. And I would hear these vast differences in their mixes versus mine. And that could either do two things to a person, you know, that goes for anything. You see somebody being better than you, it could either make you want to go harder and learn more, maybe soak up game from them, or it can make you bitter, jealous, or it can make you give up. One of the things that I found myself dealing with was constantly comparing my mixes to other engineers. And I still do that for the healthy competition's sake, and to also just, you know, you have to humble yourself to kind of see where the craft is as opposed to where you are. That way you don't ever get lost in the sauce and feel like you're too good to be, you know, too good to learn and, you know, figure out new approaches and things like that. You never want to get to a place in any profession where you're like complacent and don't feel like you need to grow anymore, because that's almost never true. You know what I'm saying? But I found especially when I was working in other studios with other engineers, I would be like, man, how are they doing this? And it would make me feel so shitty if I'm being totally honest, you know. It would make me feel like I'll never be able to get to that point. Because with engineering, you know, like with basketball, I like using basketball as a metaphor. I don't know why, but with basketball, it's like you know what to do to like maybe get better. You know, you put up reps, you shoot, you do ball movement, whatever. You can do little tricks that you've heard other players do, like dribbling basketballs with plastic bags on them, things like that to improve your handling. Things that you can like quantify, things that you 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 know what to do to improve in basketball because it's just, you know, it's basketball. But with engineering, it's like these things that almost seem magical that other engineers know how to do that I don't know how to do. The way that their ears work. I remember having a conversation with my mentor, one of my mentor engineers a few years ago, and he was telling me, he was like, man, you know, your ears have to be tuned. You have to get real used to like nitpicking things with your ear. And it's not something that can be taught. It's something that you have to pick up on, and it's probably through repetition. But it's also a skill and a gift because not all of our ears are shaped the same. Not all of us think the same. Not all of us view things the same. So whether or not you'll be a good engineer is totally up to God, I guess. But whether or not you will develop the skills to be able to pick apart audio in the way that an engineer needs to, it really comes down to you just, you know, putting up reps, bro. Listening to music and listening for certain things in music, which is like, you know, you learn it over time. But when you're first starting, you're like, what are you hearing that I'm not hearing? I don't understand this. It's like magic. And then how are you starting with this? You're starting from point A and you're like getting to this place where the song sounds amazing. Like how all of these small movements and these small things that you're doing, how did you get here? You know, I don't really have that problem anymore because I've figured out a lot of things. You know, I still have a lot of learning to do, but I've come a long way. Looking back, you know, on the road that I've traveled, I've come much further than I've got to go. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like I'm close to mastering it, you know, being like the best in the world. I feel like I'm the best, but that's how I'm supposed to feel. But I look up to a lot of engineers that are way better than me, and they make it look so much easier. That's one of the things. We could talk about, so in terms of mixing, I'll say one of the things that I ran into with clients is when they pay me to mix, when they commission me to mix an album or a song, I noticed there's a lot of misconceptions with like what the process of mixing is, why it's worth what I say it's worth. And a lot of people they underestimate how hard it is, how tedious of a job it is, or what it takes to get from point A to point B with a mix. You know, I have artists talk to me like, you know, just do this. Like, but it's not just that simple as you saying just do this. It's like a whole process of me being able to make your song sound the way that you're trying to get me to make it sound like. It's not just a click of a button. I'm not working on a machine that just allows me to just cheat like that. You know, it takes hours and hours of meticulous work. Some songs take less time than others because some songs are just easier. Some songs are difficult. They have tricky little pockets of EQs that need to be removed and things like that. It's kind of hard to explain to someone that don't do it. But for those of us that do it, we understand. Some songs sound worse than others. Some song, the quality is lower than other songs, you know, and that goes a long way. One of the misconceptions is I've had artists come to me and be like, you know, can you mix this song? And I'm like, yeah. They be like, how much? I say, it's 120 for a single and it's 85 if you're doing 2 or more. And they say, dang, it's 120. The song is only a minute, 2 minutes long. Like, bro, the length of the song has nothing to do with how necessarily, not, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how hard it will be to mix it. It just depends on how many moving pieces it is. It depends on what works need to be done to any particular song. There's no one size fits all process for any songs that I could just slap onto every song and make it sound just as good as the last. Every beat is different. Everybody's voice is different. There's a lot of variables, and the length of a song doesn't necessarily make it any easier to mix. You can have a song that's 1 minute long, 60 seconds, 45 seconds long, but it could just require much more than a song that's 6 minutes long. But that's something people think. They say, dang, man, the song is only a minute and a half long. You can't, make it a little cheaper? No, I can't. Because I still have to EQ, still have to compress, I still have to make your voice sound good. I still have to do all of these things all of these separate parts that make up a whole. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the length. Sometimes it does. If a song is shorter, it could be less parts you have to edit. But sometimes it doesn't make any difference. So I charge a flat fee. If you want a song mix, whether it's a minute long, 5 minutes long, this is what I charge. Now, if you come to me with a 15-minute song, I might charge you more. See, people look at it in the reverse. They be like, dang, you're charging me $120 and the song is only a minute and a half? No, I'm actually cutting you a break because what I really could be charging is way more than $120 depending on the length. So I could say the minimum is $120, and if you go over 3 minutes, you add another $50 for every minute you go over. But I'm giving you a flat fee to just say $120. You come in with a 4-minute song and it takes extra work. I'm not going to charge you more. But people don't look at it that way. They look at it like they're being cheated because I'm not charging them less than they think. No, I'm cutting you a break. And let me point this out too. My prices are extremely generous, especially for my skill level. The things that I know, the things that I've learned, where I place in the world of engineering, I'm really good at this shit. Please do not get that twisted. I am really good at this shit. Through years and years of toiling with this craft, trying to figure out how to be faster, efficient, my ears be, keen sense of hearing, and I do a lot of work to be as good as I am. I have to take care of my ears. I have to go get my ears cleaned. I have to be careful about how much loud music I intake and how loud my headphones are when I'm playing my game or listening to music and things like that. I have to listen to a lot of music in the studio and out of the studio just to keep my ears sharp and keep my bag of tricks sharp and to get new ideas and new approaches to things. I have to reinvent myself like every month. These are things that people don't consider because I can't just do the same old tricks every time you come to record with me because eventually you're going to be like, come on, bro, what the fuck? You've been doing the same thing since I've been recording with you for 6 years. I can't do that. So I have to find a way to reinvent myself, just like an athlete, just like an artist, a visual artist or a music artist. Got to find ways to reinvent yourself. It's no different for me. I was going to say, though, one of the things that people don't understand is that mixing and recording, until relatively recently, has been historically much more expensive than I charge. $50 an hour is kind of lowballing it. I'm like undercutting. I'm like fucking the price on the streets up by only charging 50. There's engineers out there that only charge 25 an hour or 20 an hour. I'm never going that low. Never, ever. I quit doing this and I'll go back to work before I charging $15, $20, $25 an hour. This shit is expensive. This is a space. There's a lot that goes into this. Y'all come in here asking for a bunch of free stuff. So I'm taxing. But all in all, I'm not taxing because there are studios not far from here that charge $60 an hour, $85 an hour, $75 an hour. I know a studio that charges $100 an hour. I know another studio that charges $150 an hour. And those prices are normal prices. Back in the days of, what do you call it? Like record label budgets. When a big artist would come to a studio and lock in, a studio, they might ask an artist, like, what studio you want to record in? They say, I want to record in Baseline, or I want to record in Patchwork, or whatever, right? And then the label will contact the owner or an engineer that works in that studio, ask them how much it'll cost to rent out the studio, block it out for a month, 3 months, and they would be like, it'd be $200 an hour, $250 an hour for the whole month, 24/7. So they would be like, you want the studio for DMX all month to where he can't nobody else come in here and he could just come and go whenever he please? Okay, well, we're going to invoice the label for $100,000 or $60,000 for a month. It wasn't until Guitar Center and all of this digital new art, all this new ways of making art, music. I mean, all of these keyboards and all this new stuff that's popping up every other day. These microphones that you can get for fairly cheap that sound amazing. These interfaces that don't cost nothing but $200 where you can record an entire band through there. You couldn't do that stuff at home before. In the old days, you had to go to state-of-the-art, big facility studio that charged buku dollars an hour because they knew, it's like a monopoly. They know you can't go nowhere else to do this, and this is specialized work. Music is science. My college professor told me that. Music used to be considered a science, not an art. It's still a science, but in academia, we don't consider it to be science. But it is science. It's waves and vibrations and frequencies and patterns. It's science. It's just dealing with sound and theory, right? So it's like a skilled trade. It's something that you have to learn through years and years of practice, teachings, and, it's not something you could just wake up and do. So it's worth a lot more. I know engineers that charge $500 per mix. And I only charge $120, for a single. I charge even less for your album. If you get an album mix, it's $85 per song. 10 songs, $850 until March 1st. But I know engineers that charge way more than me for a mix. I know engineers that charge $200 per mix. And like I said, I know an engineer that charge at least $500 a mix and up. So if you want a 10-song album mixed, you got to come to him with $5,000. You only got to come to me with $850, not even $1,000 yet. And it's not that he is better than me at this shit. Don't get it twisted. He's been doing it longer. He's worked on larger stages and better equipment and more experience with all these things, right? But I'm pretty good. I'm not that far behind him. I'm pretty good at this shit. And, it's partially about skill as to why he can charge more. But the real reason he can charge more is because his name is associated with bigger things, bigger artists. He's worked with Drew Hill. He's worked with Jagged Edge. He's worked with all kinds of people. He's worked with so many people, new and old, right? So when you come see him and he has that resume that precedes him, he could charge what he wants. And because his name rings bells, it justifies the cost. He gets, checks from Def Jam and LaFace and shit like that where they're paying him on they're sending him letterhead and checks with those label names on them and shit. Slow money. It takes 3 months to get paid, but it's way more than I get paid, you know? So for now, my prices are low, but all it takes is for me to get to a certain status where I can justify charging whatever I want, you know? One of the engineers that I follow and I've been following for years, his name is Leslie Brathwaite. He mixed for Cardi B. He mixed for Lotto. He mixed for a lot of people. He's done a lot of work. You know, mixed by Ali, works with TDE, and he mixed Nipsey's album. He mixed YG's album, and he probably mixed Anderson .Paak's album and a bunch of other big name shit. Imagine what those people charge per song. It's probably thousands per song because they have top 40 hits, platinum selling hits, records with billions of streams that they mixed. They can probably charge $5,000 a record, $10,000 a record. You got a 10-song album, I need $100,000. And they can mix your album in a week. They can make $100,000 in a week, $50,000 in a week. I'm not there yet, but I will be. I promise. As far as some of my pet peeves with these working in this environment with these clients, bro. And not everything is negative. I want to make sure that I have time to say some positive things too, because it's not all complaints with this life. It's a lot of great things about it. I hope that goes without saying. It's not all bad. It's not even close to being all bad. But this is really just me venting about the things that are annoying or bad about this life. It's some things that I don't like, but much more positive. But niggas being late. Now, it doesn't really bother me that much as long as you communicate with me. Now, I've had dozens of people be late and say nothing. So you have to think from my perspective, sitting in this studio by myself, tired, been here all day, and I got a 8 o'clock session. I'm waiting. 8 o'clock rolls around, they're not here. 8:10 rolls around, not here. 8:30 rolls around, they're not here. How much longer should I wait? You know? How much longer should I wait here for you? A grown-ass man or woman, not a kid, somebody that is very capable of communicating and being responsible for themselves. How much longer should I wait here before you tell me what's going on? Should I just assume you're not coming after 15 minutes? Think about that. Think about the position that puts me in as the engineer. You just don't say nothing. And then you show up an hour late, 45 minutes late. What do you think about me that makes you think my time is so invaluable that I can just sit here and wait endlessly on you when you have not even told me what's going on? Now, if you said, my bad, Red, I'm late, I'm probably be pulling up around 8:30. Cool. Now I know what to expect. But if you don't show up at all and you don't say anything at all, how long do you suppose I should wait? I'm just curious. How long? Should I wait till 9 o'clock? I adopted a policy long ago where it was like, after 30 minutes, it's subject to me just not being here when you get here. 30 minutes is a long time, and that just makes me feel like, okay, you're probably not coming. Because how much is enough? When should I stop waiting? I don't like that. Now, the worst part, my son is in the background coughing. I think he's all right. But the worst part about late clients is, so we speak, right? Through DM, through text, on the phone, whatever. Me and you, a grown man talking to another grown adult. and we decide you're coming from 8 p.m. to, let's say, 10 p.m. You're coming for 2 hours. We discuss the price. We discuss the time, obviously. And we discuss the location. Now, that's just my conversation with you. Now, I have many clients. Once you book a session and you say you want to come in from 8 to 10, because I have to fill my schedule on my own, this is not a 9 to 5. I don't just wait for work. I have to create work. So if you want to come in from 8 to 10, if somebody hits me up and they want to come in the same day, I tell them, you can come in anytime before 8 or after 10. So I book a session at 10 o'clock to midnight. Now I got somebody coming immediately after you. When you walking out, somebody else is walking in. Happens all the time. And when you walking in, somebody else is walking out. Right? When you're late, what makes you think we can truncate the time and say, since you showed up at 8:30, I'm supposed to allow you to stay till 10:30, even though we clearly discussed in plain English, a North American English, that you were supposed to be here from 8 to 10. Why do you think I could just tell my client that comes after you they have to wait 30 minutes in their car because you was late? Why? Why would I do that to them? I'm going to punish somebody who's on time to accommodate you who was late. No. Your session starts when you said it was going to start. So at 8 o'clock, the clock is running. Now, if you get here at 8:30, that's on you. You wasted 30 minutes in traffic, or you wasted 30 minutes fucking, or you wasted 30 minutes arguing, or you wasted 30 minutes going to get some fucking backwoods. That's not my problem. I shouldn't have to pay for your mistake, right? I shouldn't have to pay for your mistake. My time is valuable. I don't know about yours, but you can't just tell me when the session starts. Absolutely not. Because like I said, I have to be considerate of my clients who are here after you. Now, if we in a session and then 10 o'clock comes and then my next client is late, I'll say, okay, you can stay until this motherfucker get here. Sometimes I'll do that, not all the time, because I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you that. That's just a courtesy. Or sometimes I'll say, well, you got here late. I understand. So you can just pay for the time that we did record. You know, we booked for 2 hours, but it was only an hour and a half. So I'll knock off a little from the top. It depends on who it is. It depends on why it is. It depends on how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm broke. If I'm being real, sometimes I'm just broke and I don't want to cut breaks because I need every dollar. Sometimes I'm up and I'm feeling generous. I cut a lot of deals to my clients, whether they realize it or not. But they'll tell you, I've let people record for free. I've let people pay less than they should. I've given people free mixes before. All kinds of stuff. I've given out free studio time. I've done all those things. I've done these little incentive programs where if you refer somebody to me and they book a session, you will get a free session. I'm very generous. And in fact, not only am I generous, but I dare you to find somebody that I've fucked over. I dare you. I will pay you if you find an artist that I've worked with that I have fucked over. I implore you to find them because I know that they don't exist. I do very good business. I'm very straight up. I don't play games. I don't have time for that. You know, it's too much on the line. I don't want enemies. I have enough of those. I don't need bad reviews. Can't afford that. I don't need people looking at me funny. I don't want to feel weird and not be able to sleep at night because gypping people don't feel good to me. So when I say something, typically I do it. Now, if I forget, if my plate gets too full and it take me too long, and all of those things, I'm human. I'm not claiming to not be human, but I am claiming I ain't never robbed nobody. I ain't never took somebody's money and then disappeared. I ain't never let somebody pay me for some mixes and then just didn't mix it. I never did those things to people. You know, I let things have slipped through the cracks before. Be like, oh shit, man, I forgot all about that mix. But, you know, I'm not beyond being corrected. But yeah, don't come late and expect me to move my entire schedule around for you. Another thing, when we in here recording and you in here from 8 to 10, let's just stick with that block. If we in here recording from 8 to 10, I cannot record you all the way up until 10 p.m. We have to cut the mics off at like 9:55 or something so that I could wrap it up, bounce down your songs, email you your songs, clean up, and let my next client come in. Why is that so hard to understand? I do let people record all the way to the wire a lot of times, especially because I'm so fast with my workflow now. But back when I wasn't, why is it so hard for people to understand why I don't want you recording all the way up until 9:59 and 59 seconds? What about my next client? They have to come in and get set up and, you know, where's the in-between time where I have to transition from you to them? Consider that. You know, think about those things. Another thing I want to point out that I think is pretty cool about this position in this line of work is that like I'm like a consigliere or I'm like a confidant in the mafia or something. Do you know how much illegal activity I witness on a daily basis? You know how many criminals I know, how much illegal shit I've seen? I'm not going to name specifics. I don't want to tell any stories in particular, but I have a Rolodex of any type of criminal you can think of in my phone and in my mind because of the line of work that I do, I run into so many types of people and I keep all those secrets tight. I don't leak nothing. I don't talk about shit. You know, I witness things and I look the other way. You know, I'm like the consigliere off, what they call it, I think that's the word, consigliere, where you advise the crime family and tell them what we shouldn't do and what you should do. I've had niggas come in here and vent to me about all kind of shit and disclose all kind of secrets to me and all kind of shit, bro. I am a treasure chest of secrets, and I think that's pretty interesting. I like that shit. But that's another thing that comes with the territory with this line of work because you're like, what's the word? You're like a catalyst you're like a catalyst for an artist to get his ideas out. You're like, by default, you're like this person to them that is like allowing them to be vulnerable and allowing them to like make their art and without judgment. And it's like, so people look at me, not to mention that I've always naturally played that role with people all my life. It's something about me that people are drawn to and they just tell me secrets or they confide in me naturally. It's something about me. I don't know. But especially because I do this, it's almost like this was like destined for me to do or something. Because my personality being that way fits perfectly with this. Because people come in here and they have to trust me and they have to be able to be vulnerable with me in order to let their guard down to sing and they can't sing or to rap about these situations that are super personal. I've had people rap about being cheated on, rap about killing, rap about, you know, whether it's true or not. I'm not saying it's true. They rapped about depression. They rapped about heartbreak. They rapped about losing loved ones, mothers, fathers, uncles, cousins, They rapped about their kids and their relationship with their baby mothers, all of these things that I've heard and I know. You would imagine you would have to be comfortable with me to allow yourself to do that in here. It's just me and you. Like, I'm the fly on the wall and you're aware of me. I've had people book sessions and just come and talk to me. They don't even record. They just want to talk to me. You know? So think about that. As far as like what that means, as far as like what I represent to these artists, whether they're famous or not. I'm like a therapist, bro. You know what I mean? That's a very powerful thing. And I was aware of that years ago. I was shocked by it, like, once I realized the gravity of that. Like, you're a very important part of these people's lives. Creatively, at least. And I've made some very good friends in here too. You know, I've been to like some of my clients' weddings, and some of my clients send me baby pictures, and one of my clients asked me to be the godfather of his son. You know, I've been out with my artists. I've seen them perform. I've been in clubs with them. I've gone out to eat with clients and all kinds of things. Like, I've built a lot of meaningful relationships in this room. We can move on to the next. I want to wrap up that story I was telling about the young lady that ran off and tried to ghost me for $50 or whatever it was. One of the things I forgot to mention when I watched that episode back was that she told me she had lost her album because of a faulty hard drive or something to that effect, right? What I ended up finding out was that that's not how she lost the album at all. That's just what she was telling people so that she could spin her story, get somebody to shed tears for her and pity her and do exactly what I did. Save her, right? Now, I was being an opportunist. I was not an opportunist in a bad way, but I was trying to capitalize on the opportunity so that I could maybe gain a potential client. That's all. I wasn't preying on her. But it was like, it was something to be gained on either side of the table. But I ended up finding out she lost her album because she didn't pay the last engineer she was working with. And he withheld her album and told her, you can't have this shit until I get my money. And then I ran into her trying to save her, and then she tried to do the same thing to me. I'm trying to tell y'all, you cannot teach a stupid motherfucker how to stop being stupid. It's up to them. How you make the same mistakes over and over again and then not change your ways or listen to reason. And there's a very special type of person walking around outside in this world that is just incapable of holding themselves accountable, learning from their mistakes, doing right by people, all of those types of things. They're my least favorite type of person. You could be a thief, you could be a killer, you could be a drug dealer, you could be a drug addict. And I'll have more respect for you than a motherfucker that don't know what makes them stumble. You just keep stumbling over the same fucking roadblock. That is my personal least favorite type of person. I just want to rattle all this stuff off. This is kind of just a running down the list type of episode. I had somebody ask me recently, they had this client named Domino. He came and I worked with him years and years ago, several years ago at an old studio that I was employed at before I was in here. And he remembered me, and he always comes back and doubles back and finds me every few years, every couple years. I'm very impressed by that. I'm very proud of that because it means that I made an impression on him and he values me. He can go to any engineer, but he keeps coming back to find me, for years, right? And he reached out to me about a month or two ago, maybe a month ago. He needed 2 songs mixed. My man's Domino. I fucks with him. He's a very interesting artist. I don't know any artist that sounds like him. Not even close. Very interesting sound. But anyway, he hit me up and was like, I need 2 songs mixed, and if possible, I want to sit in with you while you mix them. And I said, no, sir. And it was like, I do closed mixing only, closed session mixing. And I had never had a term for it, and I think he's the one who said, or he was like, can I sit in with you while you mix them, or do you only do closed session mixing? I believe that was him that said that. And when he said that, I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have a term for it. I had heard that, but I had never really thought about using that term or really knew what it meant. But when he said that, it was like, okay, that's what I can start telling people. I do closed session mixing. I don't mix in front of the artist. And there's a very particular reason why. When I first started engineering and I started mixing songs with people, and I would mix songs in front of people, I noticed there was like a performance anxiety. That's one layer of it. Because you're like in front of people, and when you're not necessarily confident in your craft, it'll make you self-conscious. It'll make you think twice about every little thing that you're doing because you know that you have an audience versus you being alone, being willing to mess up because it's just you, right? But when you're in front of an audience, especially a paying client, you're like, damn, like, I don't want to experiment too much because then they might think it's weird. And, it kind of like puts you in this tight little narrow space where you're afraid to like let go and really like dive into the work. That's been my personal experience with mixing in front of people, And another thing that I don't like about it is the fact that because they're present, they, what do you call it? They gawk and they hover over you. They over your shoulder the whole time and they nitpick every fucking thing. Not everybody, but some artists are a lot of artists. It's like a part of the nature of an artist, I believe. A lot of artists is that they're very nitpicky. They're very much so perfectionists and they're control freaks. That's the term. Because they have this specific idea for the execution of this song or this work of art that they think all the steps in between are supposed to look a particular way. And that's not true. Sometimes to get from point A to B, you have to take a detour to C and D and E and F, only to come back around to B. Because through experimentation, through exploration, is how you get great art. Not just, okay, I want to play the piano like this, so we're going to play the piano like this, and that's the end of it. No. Sometimes it looks like getting in the studio, playing the piano, and being like, oh, shit, I made a mistake, but that sounded great. Let's try that again. Let's change the whole shit up. And you do that and be like, okay, well, what if we did this on top of that? Boom. Now you got a whole new idea from an original idea that was not intended. That's the art of discovery. That's the beauty in creation, right? But other artists will hover over my shoulder and say, why you doing that? Why you making the vocal sound like that? Why you put that effect on there? I don't like that. Take that out. I cannot stand that shit, boy. Can't stand it. Because you're not allowing me to do what I'm good at. You're not allowing me to do what you paid me for. Micromanaging every part of the process. It's not a good idea. As an artist, it's not a good idea to do that. And in the beginning, I ran into that problem much more. And I feel like that's associated with the clout that I didn't have back then, and how people didn't have confidence in me because nobody really knew me. But now it's like my name precedes me a little bit. People come to me most times, new clients nowadays come to me by way of recommendation. So they've already heard about me. They've already heard something I worked on. That's I fucking love that shit because it means my name is bigger than me. My skills are bigger than me. But back then, I didn't have any work out there. So people came to me and they felt like, you know, I can't really trust this nigga with my work because I don't really know him like that. And I appreciate people for taking chances on me. Don't get it wrong. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate people for taking chances on me and bringing their work to me regardless. I really do. But it came with that annoying little caveat, like I'm not allowed to like be myself and experiment with the music because people think that my ideas won't be good enough. They don't know what I'm capable of. Nowadays, because people know what I can do, because they've heard what I can do, people will come to me, drop off a mix, and drop off money and leave. And they won't say nothing. Let me know when you're done. As an engineer, I just want to say that is like as good as sex. Leave me alone. Let me do what I do. Let me send you the mixes, and if you want something changed, tell me after the fact, and we can go into revisions. But until then, shut the fuck up. And I mean that with all due respect, you know. But I'm just saying, don't micromanage me because you're stifling the creative process and you're hindering yourself. Not just me. My man's Bakari B from Atlanta. I mixed his album, his last album. Very good album, too. Look it up. Just go on my Instagram, look at my followers, and look up Bakari. My man's is great. He's good. But I mixed his album, and he was real particular about the way he wanted his songs to sound. I don't have a problem with that. You know, there's a difference in just telling me what you want versus hovering and micromanaging, right? But he was very particular about what he wanted his album to sound like. So when I would try different things outside of the box that he specified, he'd be like, nah, bro, that ain't it. I need you to take that shit off. I mean, I can't do nothing but respect it. I respect him. He's very respectful. He's one of my favorite clients is even beyond his music being good, but the way that he deals with me, he talks to me, it's like there's a lot of mutual respect between us. I love our interactions. He's a very respectful, humble guy. But he'd be like, nah, bro, that ain't it. I don't like that. Take that off. No auto-tune. Don't do this. Don't do that. Let's reverb, blah, blah, blah. Right? I'm like, hey, I think it sounds better this way, but I respect it because you're going for a particular sound. It's not up to me to be able to tell you what your album should sound like at the end of the day. I can try things, and I've done a lot of like sneaking in changes to people's songs, hoping that they don't notice. Because I'm like, I think I like strongly feel that this song or this part should go this way, and this should sound like this. And they'll tell me not to do it, and I'll do it anyway and hope they don't notice. I've got a lot of changes through the cracks like that. But a lot of artists, especially Bakari, he'd be like, nah, bro, that ain't it. Take it off. I'm like, hey, what can I do? But guess what, though? Several months, maybe over a year after we had mixed his album, he came to me and was like, hey, bro, I just want to say, I appreciate you working with me. He always say that too, like, I appreciate you working with me. I appreciate you taking the time and, working on my album with me. Thank you. I'm like, no, nigga, thank you. You built up my catalog. You paid me to do a service for you. You helped me feed my kids. So thank you. But he like, no, I really want to say that I appreciate you for like, just even considering working with me and shit. No problem. I love working with you, my nigga. And he was like, I just want to say though, I'm sorry for like micromanaging the mixing of my album. He was like, next time when we mix my next album, I'm not going to do that. And I'm still waiting, nigga. If you watch this shit, I don't know if you watch this shit or not, but I'm still waiting because I'm excited for your next project. But he told me that, like, I'm sorry, and I'm like, that's a good thing to hear as an engineer because I want artists to understand that you can trust me. I'm good at what I do. Now sometimes I'm not saying I'm perfect. I might make bad decisions sometimes creatively, but you should be appreciative of the fact that at least I'm trying things and I'm not giving you the bare minimum. You know, that's my job, is to like add a little bit of myself to your music, which leads me to my next point. I had another client, friend, I consider him a friend, I think. My man's Damasio. His last album, And So It Is. Amazing album. Look it up. Damasio, Demaciiio. 3 eyes. 3 eyes and then O. Damasio. And So It Is his name of his album. Amazing album, by the way. Amazing album. I'm not just saying that because I mixed it. Amazing album. When he came to me, I had mixed albums before this too for him, and songs and singles and albums and shit before this. But this album, he's like putting his all into it, shooting real videos, doing shows, doing promo, doing all kind of things. He's like going hard with this album. He did listening sessions and all kinds of shit, right? When he came to me with this album, he was like, how much is it going to be to mix whatever it was, 10 songs or whatever it was? I'm like, here's the price. I'm like, but for you, I'll do it for, it was like $850. I'm like, for you, but I'll do it for $750 for you. He didn't say nothing. He just sent the $850. Now, mind you, he saw the message that said, for you, I'll do it for $750. And those are the types of things that I do for artists that I have relationships with, or it just depends on where I am in life, you know? Now, he saw the message where I said $750. He was like, all right, bet. Sent the $850 anyway. I'm like, oh, this nigga ain't playing. And he gave me the list of songs and the stems and shit and just left. And I remember hitting him up like, you know, you never told me nothing. What you want me to do with this album? You know, and you never gave me no references or nothing. He was like, honestly, bro, like, I put my all into creating the songs and the beats and all of that. I arranged the songs and everything the way I wanted them. He was like, all I want you to do with this album is make it yours now. I did everything I could. Now it's your turn. And I was like, whew, that shit, nigga, that shit, like, that was like the most romantic thing I ever heard as an engineer. Like, what the fuck? That's, you know, that's where I ultimately want everybody to be when it comes to like the way that they view working with me. Let it be mine now. You know, let it trust me enough to know I'm gonna take care of your album. And I've had other artists do that unspoken, but Damasio actually said it and it blew my mind. I love that because it means that he trusts me, and it means I've gotten to a place with my name and my skill set that people are willing to take a chance with me, you know? This episode is getting a little lengthy too. So maybe I'll do a part 3. I don't know. I might not do a part 3, but I definitely wanted to get this out. But one more thing I wanted to cover though. I had an artist, I had my nigga D-Rick was in, we just had a session, I think, what was that? Monday or Tuesday or something. Today is Thursday, I think. Or today is Wednesday. So no, we had a session Friday or some shit like that. I don't remember what day that was. Or Sunday. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, Sunday morning. So like 4 days ago, we just had a session and he came in to clear up a little bit of things. It was like some slight work, nothing real heavy. he was changing some songs and he wanted to lay down a couple verses for these beats he had and shit like that, right? And we kind of finished early. So he came out the booth and we were just kind of chopping it up for a second. And he kind of had this moment of like truth with me. Like, he was like, at one point, man, I was thinking that I wasn't sweet. Now, mind you, this is a nigga that's been doing music for 20 years. He's been rapping for a long time. Like close to 20 years. If it hasn't been 20 years, it's definitely close to 20 years. But he was like, I just want to tell you, bro, like, it was a point in time where I thought maybe I wasn't sweet. And I'm like, what you mean? Why you say that? He was like, because I used to be in a booth. I know I'm in that bitch cutting up, saying all this crazy shit, and you didn't react at all. You would just be sitting at the desk like, and I'm like, no, you tripping. He was like, no, I know it's probably because, like, you know, he kind of understood why it is, but I'm going to explain to you why it is. Do you know how much fucking music I hear on a regular, everyday basis, bro? I've heard thousands and thousands and thousands of songs that you will never hear. I've heard thousands of songs that will never see the light of day. I've recorded and personally been a part of thousands of songs that never will be released or have not been released yet. I've recorded thousands of songs that artists don't even want to be associated with anymore. I've heard great rappers. I've heard terrible rappers. I've heard mediocre rappers. I've heard weird rappers. I've heard gay rappers. I've heard tall rappers, short rappers. I've recorded niggas with disabilities. I've recorded little girls. I've recorded grown women. I've recorded bitches that's been on American Idol. I've recorded gangsters. I've recorded niggas while they had bullet hole wounds not even healed in them. I've recorded niggas, bro, I'm trying to tell you, I really do this shit. I'm not impressed by anything anymore. Not only have I recorded a lot of music, but I've been in love with music since I was 8, 9, 7 years old, something like that. I've listened to millions of songs in my life. R&B, hip hop, classical music. I used to buy classical albums from the store, not just hearing it on the radio. I've listened to Anita Baker. I've listened to music from the 20s. I've listened to music from the 30s. Like, niggas have no idea the extent in which my research and my experience with music goes. I've heard music from the 40s. I've heard music from the 1700s, 1600s, and I've studied it for the sake of knowing instrument arrangement. Who wrote this? How do you compose that? The history of a country and how it's tied to music. The history of music and how it's tied to slavery. The history of music and how it's tied to civil rights. The history of music and how it's tied to Panama, Cuba, Nigeria. I've studied music from all over the world. I've heard so much music, Japanese music, Chinese music, Mongolian music. I've heard all kind of shit, bro. I have a record collection behind me that's hundreds of albums deep, and this is just some of that shit. More records over there. I got iPods and phones and computers full of music. I'm just trying to paint this picture so niggas understand. Do you know how much shit I've heard and continue to hear, bro? I'm not going to be impressed by things like I used to be. Think about that. A basketball player, I love basketball as a metaphor when it comes to music. A basketball player who has been doing this shit their whole life. Just because you hit a fucking 30-foot, 40-foot three, they don't give a fuck. I done that 1,000 times. In practice and in the game and all kind of shit. You think it's something you can kind of do to like impress Michael Jordan or Allen Iverson or Steph Curry? No. I'm not trying to say I'm Steph Curry or this shit. I'm just saying somebody that's been exposed to so much basketball, they view it different. It's just everyday shit to them. It's just peas and potatoes and shit. Like, it's regular shit to them. I don't give a fuck about a nigga hitting a three from half court if I'm Steph Curry, or a nigga hitting a fadeaway if I'm Jordan. I do that shit in my sleep. Bro, I've recorded amazing artists, big, unknown, all kinds of shit. I can't be impressed by everything anymore. It's just not in me. That's one reason why I'm not impressed by every bar I hear. Another reason, a nigga has to understand that when I'm working, I'm focused on something totally different. I'm not even listening to what you're saying. I mean, I am listening to the words and the way you pronounce them, but I'm not processing it as a listener. I'm processing it as an engineer. When I'm listening to you, I'm making sure you pronounce words correctly, but I don't give a fuck about your metaphors right now. I'm making sure you're not clipping in the mic. I'm making sure it's not distorted or ugly sounding. I'm making sure that I'm organized and I'm on it when you need me to press a button and you need to get back into the, when you need me to restart the recording. I got to be on that. I'm not thinking about you. I don't give a fuck what you're talking about. That's not my job. My job is to be a well-oiled machine that make this bitch run as efficiently and fast and conveniently as possible for the artists that I have in that booth that's behind me. Because if I'm not doing that, I'm failing. So I don't really give a fuck about your metaphors. And that's not to say, it's not to be an insult, but I'm just saying I'm so focused on what I'm supposed to be doing. Bro, I don't give a fuck about what you're talking about in that song. You could be in that bitch saying, hoop de la la de la la la. I don't give a fuck, bro. You can get in that booth and do whatever you want to. You paid me. It's your right. You can do whatever you want in that booth, so long as you respect me and my space. You can get in that bitch and not record. You can just be like, hit record and then say nothing. That's not up to me. It's up to you. I am just a piece of furniture in the room. Every now and then, I'll give my input or I'll give my suggestions based on workflow or how you can better execute something, because I have so much knowledge about this shit and better ways of doing things because of my experience. But most of the time, that's not the type of engineer that I am. Not all engineers are the same. We all view these things and approach this thing differently. It's not my job to tell you the coldest. It's my job to make you sound and feel like you the coldest by doing my motherfucking job. I don't have time to be sitting here sucking your dick about what you said in a song. I know plenty of niggas that's the best lyricists I've ever seen, besides like mainstream lyricists. But there's a list of niggas I could rattle off right now that's like amazing at rapping. I don't care, bro. Because I also know, man, you gotta understand, like niggas don't understand how much art I'm exposed to and the way that I view art differently than the average person. I also know that being the best rapper or having dope metaphors means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of it all. That's not what's going to make you most successful. There's plenty of rappers that has metaphors up the ass that no one will ever hear about. Because it's about more than that. It's about the way a song makes you feel. I'm more inclined to respond to that than I am your metaphors and similes. I hear that shit all day. But the thing with artists is they come in here and they have a small scope of what's going on. They can only view things from their perspective. So when they come in here, they think the world revolves around them because all they know is their music. I've had artists come in and they'll make a song and they'll be like, they have this impression that they're the greatest artist in the world. But you don't know because you're not an engineer. You're just one artist that hears a very small amount of music, and it's mostly your own music. You don't know that I know 15, 20 niggas that's better than you. If I'm just being honest. You know what I'm saying? But it's not about who's better. Because that's not what determines success. And that's not even what this shit is about. It's about you getting your emotions out and you being able to vent and create without pause, without worry. This shit is supposed to be therapy. It ain't no motherfucking dick swinging contest. I don't give a fuck who's better than who. I don't care about your metaphors. I'm not even into that. I'm into how music makes you feel. My favorite artist of all time, my favorite rapper of all time is DMX. He's not the best lyricist, but he invokes feeling. So the way that I view art is totally different than the way the average artist and the average person views art because I consume so much of it. I'm a part of so much art. I have thousands of songs that I've recorded, mixed, produced. Thousands and thousands and thousands. I have songs, Smoke DZA has rapped on my beats before. I've mixed songs with Rio the Young OG, Peasy, the Doughboys. I've recorded motherfuckers that's on Love and Hip Hop and all kind of shit. I'm exposed to so many different kinds of music. Good, bad, young, old, lyricists, bounce music, house music, dance music, singing, R&B, freak shit, scamming rap, niggas rapping about lowriders, gangster shit, druggy music, all kind of shit. I don't give a fuck about nothing anymore because the way that I view music is from this like all-seeing position. I'm an engineer. You know what I'm saying? I have to be able to see it all. I don't give a fuck about your metaphors. Keep doing them. They're cold. But I'm just saying in the moment, that shit does not move me. I don't care about that. I care more about the feeling you make me, you give me with your music. I care about whether or not you get in that booth and you're being honest with me and yourself. I care about if you're telling the truth, if you're being yourself. That's what I care about. You know what I'm saying? So I think that wraps it up, man. I could stop it there. I appreciate you for listening. If you made it this far, I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit that motherfucking share button and send it to your mama. I don't give a fuck. Send it to a nigga that's a metaphor rapper. Let him know. That's up to you. You know what I'm saying? But thank you so much, man. This is part 2. I'll see y'all next week for episode 9. As always, man, I'm Red Karan. This is Streams. Holla. I'm done.
Cause life's a phony bitch. If age is just numbers, then why we fear time? Reincarnation, maybe Haile Selassie this time. What incarnation? Maybe I'm a philosopher slime. They still talk shit about me, cut back your gossiping time. Dinosaurs down to the fossils, gray hair follicles now.